Hi everyone, welcome to the first episode of Monday Morning Moonshots. In this episode, what we'll be trying to do is taking up a particular moonshot problem, and for the first 30 minutes, we'll brainstorm about the solution, and for the next 30 minutes, we'll try to ideate a business model around that particular problem statement. So we have 5 people here with entirely different backgrounds. So one, Abhishek, I think we can have our introduction ourselves, starting from Abhishek.
So hi folks, I'm Abhishek Mukherjee. I'm a computer science graduate from 2017, and after my engineering I worked at HSBC as a data engineer, but I was really bored of coding and engineering. I thought, why not let's take a shot and move towards a functional role. And currently now with my batchmates I'm doing my masters from Masters Union, where I'm pursuing a program in technology and business management. So that's my introduction. Over to you.
So hi everyone. So my name is Akhil Khurana. I'm from a commerce background and I have experience in financial consulting and strategy roles. Apart from that, I love problem solving, and that's why I'm here with my friend Raghu. So let's continue.
Yeah. So again, hi everyone. My name is Raghu, and I have around 2 years of experience working in an IoT-based startup as a lead R&D engineer. And right now we are pursuing postgraduate program in technology and business management. So yeah, over to Yeshvanth.
Hi everyone, this is Yeshvanth here. I've got close to 5 years work experience. I've done various domains and roles, right from strategy, business development, operations. I'm a firm believer that you are a byproduct of the people you come across. So I owe it to all my mentors who guided me so well. And to this point, I'm here doing my masters from Masters Union. Over to Kavi.
Hi, I'm Kavi. So I'm more like a fresher with from commerce background. Completed my BBA from Stella. Then worked for a year as a management trainee at a firm. After which I wanted to figure out what exactly I wanted to do in my life, which was a place that I'm interested in. So thought, why not try a master's in technology and business management, which is completely different from the background that I have. So here I am.
Awesome. So we have Abhishek, who is from entirely pure tech background, Akhil from finance background, Yeshvanth from a business background, and Kavi, who is a fresher, who will be giving us entirely radical perspectives, and I will be guiding the entire session. So yeah, let's get started. So coming to the moonshot page, the game of radical thinking. Awesome. So let's start the game. So the problem statement that we've been given is waste management.
Waste mismanagement. Okay.
Cool. So we have 3 technologies with this. Okay. So globally, Abhishek, can you?
So globally, 2 billion people do not have access to basic waste collection services. Properly managed solid waste disposal is critical to reducing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. This is as per the UN Stats 2018.
Right. So the problem that we are trying to solve is basically
It's around waste management and how can waste, how can people have access to basic waste collection services, and that's a problem because it is leading to and that will actually lead to reduction in pollution and greenhouse gases.
Okay, so basically we are trying to solve waste collection.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have 3 technology options with us. So we have nuclear power, we have sustainable fabrics, and we have shrinking. Okay, Abhishek, I'm not able to read.
So sure. So nuclear power is use of nuclear reactions to release energy, which can be obtained from nuclear fission, nuclear decay, and nuclear fusion reactions. So it basically means use of nuclear reactions to release energy, which can be obtained from, okay, take it next. So it's basically use of nuclear power for solving.
Okay.
Sustainable fabrics. Fabrics derived from eco-friendly resources such as sustainability grown fiber crops or recycled materials. Okay. Shrinking. Process of becoming smaller in size.
Again, I think we need to understand how it is getting related. Okay.
Yeah.
So waste management, I think in layman terms, everyone is able to understand that there is no proper collection systems for many societies of the country or the world, whichever that is.
Are they talking about any specific waste management?
Can you go to-
It is solid waste management.
Solid,
right?
yeah.
Solid
waste.
Solid waste
Solid
management.
And how is the nuclear power? For example, are they trying to say that we're gonna burn the are we trying to take the energy from nuclear power process and then feed it to decomposing this? What's the connection? I'm not able to relate
Just
with.
reopen the card.
Okay, so from my understanding, I think what they're trying to convey here is that how will we be able to reduce the solid waste management? Like, how will we manage the solid waste that is there in the environment? So one thing that, this is from my understanding, one thing that we could do is use nuclear power.
How?
Yeah, so the thing is that here they say that we could use the technology of nuclear fission and all of this. So one of the articles that I studied long back, it actually told that by using the nuclear power, which I'm not exactly sure how the process happens,
Yeah.
by using that, they recycle the power, recycle the solid waste and create it into an energy form.
Okay, but how
So
does
basically the-
nuclear power? I think that comes under recycling, right? So once you recycle it, maybe with
The
help
energy
of
fed for that is.
yeah, maybe some bacteria might be there, which maybe if you heat it out, you get some energy out of it,
No.
maybe.
Now
Okay.
there are two things here. Either it's in mismanagement, there can be two things. Either it can be about collection or processing. So what are we talking about here? Is it collection or processing?
I think it's left open-ended for us to
Yeah,
interpret
it's
it.
completely
It's
open.
open-ended.
It can never be for collection. It's basic understanding.
It's
okay?
for
It's not a
processing.
robotic technology for to you to collect it.
And,
It's an energy dispersal, so which is to be about processing.
Processing.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so the thing is that in solid, generally if you see dump yards, there are multiple kinds of waste there.
Okay.
It could be from plastic to fabrics to anything
Plastic,
and everything.
anything.
Mhm.
Okay, so what they do is they segregate the waste in the first place.
Okay.
Once they start segregating it,
Mhm.
few things will be recycled, few things will be converted into coal,
Okay.
which will be then given to like factories like cement factories or iron factories or wherever. They will use that as an energy form.
Okay. Got it.
Just instead of coal or any other form of energy
Understood.
to burn.
Understood.
So I think the nuclear power here is what that means.
It doesn't mean anything. Actually, these are three random technology aspects from a list of entire.
Oh, got it. We were trying to make
So
it.
none of that is related.
Yeah, it might not totally make sense.
Yeah,
as
it
well.
might not
Got
make
it.
sense. So we have
Got
to
it.
select a technology.
Yeah, in
Oh.
So-
this case, like nuclear power is not having
Not having any relation, I feel.
Yeah.
So I feel sustainable fabrics would be a good
Also, no,
technology.
I'll tell you how. Tell me,
Okay.
okay, if you think so, can you tell me how?
Let's take
Can
the
we
next
move
one.
on to, yeah. Fabrics to-
I'll read it. Fabrics derived from eco-friendly resources such as sustainability grown fibers or recycled materials.
At least I feel it is somewhere related to waste management.
I'll not. I'll tell you why. This is not related to waste management. This is a step. This is another. Okay, if you try to draw the blocks, there is going to be waste. There are going to be waste that's generated,
Mhm.
and then you either dump it and then harm
Or
the
you
society
recycle.
and harm the ecosystem,
Mhm.
or you
Recycle.
process it. Okay.
Process and recycle.
Process and recycle, and then you again put it into the ecosystem for consumption.
Okay.
Okay, and then again it goes as waste.
Mhm.
So now what the problem statement is? The problem statement is this block, waste management.
Okay.
But here this particular fabric technology is talking about block D to block E, whereas we're trying to focus on block C.
Okay, but given these constraints, we have three technology options. We have nuclear power.
Shrinking makes more
So-
sense than any other
So
technology.
what I am thinking
Finally
of
come to
is,
shrinking.
let's say about he has given two statements in the problem statements.
Yeah, break
One
it.
is about collection, one is about processing.
Mhm.
First of all, they say that there are 2 million people who don't have access to collection services,
Mhm.
basic services.
Right.
The other one is about processing, that it leads to environmental pollution and everything. Now, if we talk about shrinking can be a good part on the way of collection. Why? Because we are actually shrinking down the waste material. It helps in the overall collection process,
Okay.
right? So we can think of ways where it can be better at collection, because solid waste, if we think about it, might take up a lot of resources because of its, maybe because of the
Okay.
space it's taking. So if we shrink it down, it might be a good collection problem.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
I feel
Solutions.
that.
Okay, I think we are looking at the way wrongly. I agree to that, but there's another way to look at it is that given that fabrics can be used because it can decompose on its own, it's sustainable fabrics. It's example, it's based on eco-friendly.
Okay.
What are the definition to it?
Eco-friendly resources such as sustainably grown fiber crops
Or
or
recycling
recycling
materials.
Okay, does not mean that it will decompose on its
Yeah.
own. It's a
No,
hypothesis.
it's a-
that we
huh,
No,
do.
only after it okay.
Even if it does, how is it helping the problem?
I did not have anything for collection because it's not causing greenhouse gases.
But still, it's an
But
addition.
that-
na?
yeah, and that's
it's
not,
an addition to the solid
and
waste.
that's not coming here in the process what we are tracking.
No, it will come because they say the two problem statements we are having is collection and then processing. Okay, my understanding of shrinking comes under processing. I'm not sure how it will come under collection, because when I was in an organization called Trash Troopers, the very objective about that was waste management on the whole. I can relate to the subject. Why I'll tell you. The entire concept of dumping and then burning, air pollution, land pollution, ocean filling happens at the very origin because there's no segregation of waste. It's
Agreed.
proven scientifically in every other means that every waste or whatever you consider as a waste is a source or a raw material for another production. So if you're able to, at the very origin, if you're able to segregate this dump of waste into 6 categories, everything will go into recycling or shredding or shrinking or every other process. So that comes under processing. Shrinking came for us because we were able to process down macroplastics into microplastics, and again it will go into capsule for processing of plastic, and then again it will be sent for other process of plastic related products.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of the same thing, but ideally, yes, it can be said that if we increase shrinkages in the current processing area, then we'll be able to collect more, because
So you're talking about utilization
Yeah.
aspect of it.
yeah.
That's another business element to it.
Yeah, and I think currently how it is run. Let's see as a state, right? So we have landfills.
Correct.
Where you have all the garbage collection
Yes.
plants, right?
Yes.
Correct.
What do landfills do? They ultimately go, they have huge pits, right? And the pits you dump it layer by layer, layer by layer, layer by layer, right? What
Right.
is that done for? That's primarily done for shrinking, and they're done out of the paths where, in case even if you have some waste material on it does not pollute or harm the atmosphere,
Right.
So that is where we already have. So we need to understand how and where the problem statement comes into. We need to understand what is the current as is infrastructure.
Okay.
What is the business as usual? What's currently going on? We need to do some research on that. If we are tracking shrinking, and see how that can be improved using technology.
Okay,
Right?
cool.
So maybe one aspect may be where are we placing these things, right?
Mhm.
How are we contextually dividing it? Because shrinkages might not be possible for any type of waste that I collect, right?
Mhm.
Maybe for recyclable waste, we might have a different process. For recyclable waste, nowadays what we see whenever we go for waste management problems, right? One
And
basic
Google
way
for
is
2 billion people.
Yeah, one
we find the
basic
reasons why it is.
one basic way is that sort of first of all segregate at a user level.
Right.
That throw all the plastics here. So that is one way. But are people adhering to it? Maybe put some. So how do we sort of solve it at a micro level? Where from a user perspective, and how do
Waste
we
collection.
sort of fill in the user journey right from here and then make sure and adhere, and then how we sort of are segregating and put it to different landfills.
Makes
If we
sense.
track that end-to-end user journey,
Hmm.
right, from a user consumption to a flow perspective,
Then perspective
then we
and-
can sort of get it, and it should be we should get good data.
I think there's
I
an
think-
article in Waste Aid which says that in that I think we are able to relate to 2 billion people worldwide lack access to regular waste collection, while a larger around 300 people lack access to controlled disposal services of municipal solid waste. Okay, that's a different problem. But I think we are focusing on the first
First
problem.
problem statement.
Yeah.
So
This-
given these, I think
You can take
we should
shrinking.
do
Yeah.
shrinking.
Okay.
We should take up shrinking.
I kind of have a different perspective
Okay.
outside the three or four of you. So sustainable fabrics here.
Mhm.
Okay, so two of the problem statements that we have is collection and processing.
Right.
And I personally think sustainable fabrics could have both the thing. Like we could find an answer for both the problem statements here.
Okay.
First, let's have to collection.
Mhm.
Okay, so before going there, I'll tell you one example that actually happens. So right now we know, like you have all packets of chips, like it could be Maggi packets or Haldiram's packets and everything.
Right.
They're all plastic and tin papers.
True.
In the end of the day.
Mhm.
So there's actually one firm. What they do is they collect all these things. They cut it into
Mm.
small pieces.
And they make
and they make
bags
handbags
with those
and
strips,
college
right?
bags
Yeah.
and pouches and lot more.
Yeah.
And not just that, recently, I think this year or last year, Cairns Festival,
Mhm.
there was this person, I forgot the name of the celebrity, who actually wore a complete dress material. Basically, she wore her gown, which was made by recycled plastic.
Okay.
Okay.
A gown made of plastic, recycled plastic.
Yes.
Okay.
And there are multiple fashion designers right now who focus on getting awareness of waste management or plastics, who do various fashion shoots only based on waste management. I mean, not exactly waste management, basically plastic and waste.
Okay. So there are two aspects to view this, right?
Yeah.
So one is a typical, I feel a typical way to look through things, a typical technology which we feel might solve a problem. And then there is the other part, a technology which we don't know yet, but maybe it can help, maybe it might not help. But what I feel would be something crazy to explore is shrinking, because we don't know how exactly shrinking might help. When we talk about sustainable fabrics, we still know that, okay, in some way, if we can make it sustainable or reusable, it is still somewhat, at the end of the day, we can use it somehow. But I feel shrinking is something that, we don't even know how it can help. But I feel I just have an intuition that it might help in some way.
And it is how it is done actually. If you see how does, as we discussed, right?
Mhm.
So it's currently also, and here also one point. If we are able to, if we understand the problem, right?
Mhm.
Problem is more from a shrinking perspective. I need to solve it from a user perspective. That how do I increase my waste collection mechanism?
Right.
That is the key metric that we are tracking.
True.
Additionally, then how are we sort of using shrinking to solve the problem end to end?
Actually, I'll tell you, I think we'll have a logical reasoning to it. The problem here and the scenario that we're talking about with sustainable fabrics won't come in place, I'll tell you. Because sustainable fabrics or whatever the examples you gave will still have the plastic materials and everything with it. If you do not have, at the very place, do not have a mechanism to sort out for the collection, again these materials are going to go as dump yard and going to be harming the ecosystem. So these solutions are all temporary, which might be used in a place where the collection mechanism is sorted, where you can know where you can dump a plastic and everything. Here, the very origin is that there's no means to even collect the waste. So sustainable fabrics, see even here, sustainable fabrics should have a still safe and disposable method when they have reached the end of their life.
Okay.
So
I think we can move ahead. with
Yeah, I
shrinking.
think
Let's move ahead.
go into
one
around 15
doubt.
minutes, yeah.
With shrinking, can we add other technologies or?
It's up to us. It's completely open-ended.
Perfect.
You just take one and
Let's
you just
move
start
ahead.
exploring.
We need to bring robotics and shrinking together.
Yeah, sure.
I think
Maybe
that-
we might have to add
yeah.
even sustainable
I-
fabrics to it. We don't know.
let's-
We'll just
let's
start
do
exploring.
One thing, currently we're in the problem space, right?
Yes.
So we know that shrinking is one way. How are we solving it is coming the solutions.
That will
The
be
next
the
one.
space.
Yeah.
Let's
So let's
now
select
we are-
shrinking.
Sure.
we know the problem
Let's
space
go.
right now.
Cool.
Okay.
So we have 3 power-ups. So Abhishek, can you help us out?
Yeah. So the 3 power-ups are
The venture capital.
You pitched an idea to a venture capital firm, they love it and invested. Invested 1 million to get the idea up and running.
Okay, we have $1 million in hand. Okay.
Try thinking, and next one, try thinking at the micro scale, for example, the scale of a cell, microbe, or a nanobot. Okay, next one.
Okay.
Wait. Repeat.
Try thinking at the micro scale, for example, the scale of a cell, microbe, or a nanobot.
Oh my god,
Micro-
shrinking.
Yeah,
Shrinking.
shrinking, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Non-profit has decided to invest lots of time and money to educate to get the public excited about your ideas.
Okay.
So we have money, we have adoption, we have a non-profit which is helping us adoption,
And the
right?
scale
And we need
is
to think it at a micro scale,
nano level
scale, micro and nano
Okay,
level.
I don't know, but the first thing that's still coming to my mind is the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, when he shrinks the kids to the smallest level. So
I hope we are not doing that here.
he can still think of it. It's up to us.
Okay, so basically the solution or anything that we're trying to bring here doesn't actually have to be something that's feasible.
If it is feasible, it will be well and good, because that's how we can try to
Take
frame
ideas to
a
implement.
business model out of it. But yeah, I mean, we will try to think crazy. Maybe it might not work out. We'll not have any constraints. So that's why for the first 5-10 minutes, we'll not have any constraints and think of any solution that can work out. And then we'll try to add this technological constraints that we have and try to.
In this entire process, I'll be keeping down with the reality check and the critical check, telling how it's going to be feasible with the business.
Okay.
So it's going to be tough, right, for you all if you want to go out in the moon.
Okay.
Okay, let's start.
So when we think of waste collection, right? So let's think of this. Let's think of our home, right? So we still have two kinds of waste. We have solid waste and we have wet waste, right? So how are we disposing at the moment?
Stopping you there. That's where we're going wrong.
Okay.
We need to talk about a user persona which has a problem. You know, you're not a user persona.
Why
You
am
still
I
have
not a user
you still
persona?
have access to go throw it to the nearest dustbin. You still have at least someone in Chennai. I know that the system is placed where they're at every day 7 a.m. they come make an alarm and come collect waste.
Actually, I have a
Okay.
separate thinking to that.
Yes.
If we don't think about the problem that he's facing, so the whole idea is to actually, let's say, more collection and more processing, right? Now, we need to think of how the current waste is actually being processed.
Okay.
Starts from his home. So let's say that we are throwing away X kgs of waste every day, and the point is, if shrinkage is one technology that we can use right from his doorstep, then we are actually reducing the whole quantity of the materials in a specific scenario that comes to capacity. Everything has a definite capacity. When we are thinking of processing, a bigger problem is that we have access to limited capacity in waste management. So if we can actually reduce the materials, the capacity is increased, so we can get more collection. So it starts at his doorstep, right?
I see you're talking. See, we have two angles to it. There is a problem, and then we have a solution in terms of the shrinking you're talking about. Here you're talking as an entrepreneur, then I have a solution. I'll go sell it to Raghu, who will be doing it at his doorstep. But actually, the problem that they've stated is still about the 2 billion people who do not have access to the waste collection. Also, we should think about their journey and telling like how should we
I
put
feel
in,
that makes
how
sense.
should we implement the technology there.
True. Okay.
The
there
entire
is-
1 million we've got by pitching, telling like there are 2 billion people who do not have access to waste collection. I'll bring in a technology that is going to help the process, which is going to help the world and the environment.
And
Okay.
you want to tap into that specific segment, and that's where
Exactly.
you're getting into picture. And I think even the major problem here we're missing is it's more about the collection, not about the disposal.
Disposal.
That's the major thing, right?
Yeah.
So that in collection perspective, so collection can be there can be two parts to collection.
Okay.
One is the way in which we are collecting, right?
Okay.
Right, and second is whether we are collecting or not. Right.
Correct.
The second problem is what is aligned to your statement, that how do we do it at rural areas where you have we don't have any adoption,
Correct.
where we don't have any awareness, right?
Correct.
That is, so we can actually segregate in two separate
Can you check that
parts.
article which segments does it?
So
And-
just one thought out of the blue. So again, I'm thinking of the movie Wall-E, wherein the robot tries to push everything into blocks of square and then tries to put it on top of things, right? Trying to make it as a building. So what I feel is in terms of shrinking, I'm not able to say shrink it as a shrinking method per se, but if we are able to collect these solid waste, and if we can have a mechanism to make it into smaller bits and pieces, and then maybe try to work with it in some angle, maybe it might.
And here, since we have limited time and so let's take a low hanging fruit. Let's
Yeah.
do one problem to sort of do it right. So
It's
there-
mentioned that places in Africa are the most where we're talking about this problem.
So then your second problem statement makes more sense. Ki how are we first of all even
Collecting.
doing collection where it doesn't even happen,
Hmm.
right? We have to take that specific segment and we have to also ensure that we are making sure that shrinkages are happening in place, right? So
Just a thought out of the blue, what if we have some sort of a robot which will, again, I'm just thinking from a Wall-E perspective, which will shred, let's say we feed in some sort of solid waste into that robot, it will shred it into small pieces and then tries to collect from each and every home, right? Shred it into smaller pieces and then tries to create maybe blocks out of it, or maybe later we can process it in a different way. But that robot will try to shrink that major solid waste into smaller pieces which we can later use.
I think
So
here
are you meaning shrinking the waste or just compressing it into a small cube?
Compressing.
Compressing.
Shredding it and then making it as a small.
Yeah.
Essentially reducing the quantity.
Reducing the quantity.
The
Okay.
area that is being
This
covered
is
by
exactly
the
what
waste.
happens with the used cars when they actually go out of use.
Exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, correct. They shred it and then make it as a cube.
Yeah.
I think one major point here would be how do we sort of tackle the problem is, so first problem is segregation of waste. I'm coming back to that point, right? So how do we ensure we cannot rely on users, because here this user persona is a rural persona where it's villages, right? Now here I can go in Masters Union, I can actually throw it in different bins. They will not be doing it, right? So we have to devise a process at our end where we do have a proper segregation,
True.
right? And that's when we sort of deploy our resources for shrinkages, because we have to also make sure that our resources are utilized, right? Maybe at places, at certain areas, we have 80-90% waste, right? Where it's more of the resources are the waste is not that solid. Or, you don't have cars, you have lots of hay, you have lots of agriculture, right? So there we deploy those resources, and we sort of, because resource utilization is very important over here, right?
Mm.
So doing that market research as to what sort of waste do we have, and then deploying the resources per our category would be very important.
Fair enough. And let's not forget the 3 power cards we have. The NGOs are the ones who will go into deep interiors of Africa, who will give in the awareness for us.
Yeah, they'll do
Yeah.
adoption. They'll help us with adoption.
They'll help us with adoption. So
They can also guide them on how to
bring in this waste segregation.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay, let's
So
take
that's
that.
what we started doing in rural areas. So when we started, I think I remember us walking and telling that how different ways segregation, but they said like there's no incentive for them.
Yeah.
It's a part of a lifestyle for them to just go throw it at the corner, street corner, and walk off. And without much of funding or the government initiatives, that will again not convert it into segregation.
But
of
why do
particular
they throw
localities.
it out like that?
Obviously, you do not want to hold the waste.
Yeah. Plus, why would you actually segregate its efforts? Right? Who wants to take efforts? It's not directly impacting their lives.
To be honest,
There's a very long-term indirect impact.
it's not been easy to implement within my home also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
obviously.
why
we
are
will
we
have
not
this.
able to do the separation ourselves? Why do we expect a user to do that separation?
Because they are being paid for it and we are not being paid for it.
I'm not incentivized to segregate it. I can throw all my dry waste into a public.
No, exactly.
And they are
What I'm
habituated.
saying is,
That's a
let's say-
behavioral change
Yeah,
that you want to bring
exactly.
in.
What I'm saying is, let people throw the waste. Let them mix it together. Let us as a company, let us sort it out into a wet waste or a dry waste.
Yes.
Maybe we can do some sort of image processing, which will be able to distinguish between whether it is a kind of a banana peel or some sort of a fruit or a vegetable waste, or it's a dry waste, and then maybe we can try to segregate from there.
Let's not go into solution space right now again, because then that would get into complexities. But at a
Okay.
very high level here, what comes to my mind is, because if you just think about it, there is a stuff line at a particular place, right?
Right.
Now for us to assess and maybe make a system which will sort of segregate it is very difficult,
Mhm.
right? Maybe we can just again, it's not coming to my mind right now, but at a at a
Okay.
hardened level or some way in which we can just sort of have some bots, sort of picking up things, right, and just doing a
Right, so I think we are under 5 minutes. Yes.
So we need to come up with an
idea.
idea. Right, we need to fixate on an idea now.
We need not. We'll just try to.
Okay. The thing is that all the
we'll try
ideas
to
that-
come up with a solution. Yeah.
So the thing that you were talking right now about separating into wet and solid waste after being thrown in the dustbin
Mhm.
is actually something that's already happening in India. So there are
Okay.
companies which actually do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So basically, there are tons of municipal clearance projects that happen
Mhm.
in the dump yards where they actually segregate the waste. So this is
Okay.
not something that is not
Cool. So then
Right.
that side of the problem is solved.
is sorted.
Segregate
So
is
then-
It's not
Segregate is
actually
sorted.
solved because it's done manually right now.
Yeah, it's
too
done.
But
much
we have a
cost
way
and
at
time.
least. We have a
We
way
have
at
a way.
least. So now let's say we have a separate two different things. Let's say we have a separate solid waste and we have wet waste. Then what do we do? How do
Okay.
we shrink it?
So, if we want to bring more collection, what is the biggest problem that is hindering that? Number one is that there's too much waste.
Okay.
There's no capacity to actually process more waste
Mhm.
than actually being processed in a particular scenario.
Yeah, you can
Right.
elaborate.
So that is one of the biggest factors that I can see that I have also heard that is actually prohibiting getting more waste from different places. Second is it's very difficult to go into the rural areas and pick up stuff because it's not very well managed. In apartments and everything, there are people who manage. We all keep our stuff at one place, and so the person can come and pick it up and go, right?
Mhm.
So I think these two problems. Any other problems that we see of that are actually hindering the process?
No, for me, I think it's boiling down to the resources and the funding for the governments.
Okay.
The localities, the countries you're talking about, the areas, Africa. It's
Mhm.
about money versus the benefit. How much can I invest on this particular project? Can I
Mhm.
make benefits out of it? Given the scale and the economics of a country, there are more critical and severe problems like water or water scarcity and other things where they want to spend their money. For now, today it's not the waste management problem. Tomorrow it could be the alarming problem.
Okay.
For today, every government body or initiative or a senior management, I would want to do firefighting for the ground activities there. So we need to see how we can also raise funds for apart from the 1 million
Mhm.
that we have raised. We need to raise a repository of telling like global action 2050, zero global waste, zero land waste, zero landfilling, with such initiatives and drives, so that the very concept of funding is sorted,
Mhm.
so that you can scale technology.
Makes sense. Now, given the time constraint, I'll just throw one idea that I have on top of my mind.
Sure.
Let's say we have all these streets in different parts of Africa, and we just have, let's say, one simple box where they can throw the waste, so that instead of throwing anywhere, they throw it inside the box. They don't need to split it, but let's just say they throw it inside the box. Now let's say I have some sort of waste collection mechanism, whether it can be through some sort of a person who collects it, or maybe some sort of a robot which just collects it and turns it into something, right? So let's say I'm thinking of a robot which just goes and collects all of these waste and goes to a particular waste collection yard. So once it goes into that waste collection yard, we can do the sorting mechanism in some way, which will split it into solid and wet waste. And once it splits into solid and wet waste, the wet waste can be made
For biogas.
into biogas of some sort, and the solid waste can be shredded into pieces. Maybe it can be. I don't want to think of burning, because again it constitutes to carbon dioxide. But I've seen.
Recycling is the only way.
Yeah, how do you recycle that?
So
waste?
for against every material, you will have to put it into their micro cubes, or whatever you're saying.
Mhm.
And then there are already manufacturers who take in these raw materials and put it into their feeding machines and make products.
Let's think of one problem statement at a time. So if we are thinking about collection, so I have a idea that what if. So let's think of a scenario, since we have very limited money, we have just $1 million right now. So think of a scenario in which the processes remain the same. There are trucks that are coming to your doorstep. That actually there are people who come pick your garbage up, but in those trucks there is a technology of shrinking the waste.
Within the trucks,
So whenever that guy puts that garbage in the truck, it's already processed into a smaller cube, or the entire, let's say, X kgs is processed into a very small cube.
Okay.
Now it can reach many more households in the same capacity,
Mhm.
and that's how we can actually, maybe depends on the technology that we're using, maybe also reduce the cost of the processes that we are currently doing, because the fuel gets saved, the labor, if we need 10 labor people who are actually doing this for one specific area, we need maybe one or two. So
Mhm.
that's how we can save the cost also, and that's how we use those funds properly.
So what I understand is shredding on the way.
Yeah, on the way.
On the wheels.
Right.
On the
Shredding on the wheels.
Shredding
That
on
can
the
be
wheels.
a
tagline.
That tagline, right? And actually, it makes sense because you are sort of utilizing your resources and time as well, right? While on the way you are sort of doing shredding, and finally, and once you shred it, right, it becomes, and there you do a segregation or stuff like that, right? And at the landfills, ultimately you then put it in separate spaces.
I want to stick with this particular aspect of it. I think we eventually need to begin somewhere, and with 1 million, let's prove it to the funding and the VC world that we can process something with the shredding technology that we have, and then make the cubicles, and then again make money out of it by giving to the as raw materials to other industries, and show revenue streams. Once you're done with this, then we can talk about doing robotics and going to the existing landfills, and then talk about the processing aspect of it also. You begin with a smaller zone. So let's call this zone A, and then this is going to be our pilot project where we do shredding on the wheels. Man per cost is still the lowest, and given the if it's in Africa as a scenario, the cost is not going to be very high for a manpower also. So for you to do that, fuel is what we need to figure out. So again, I will be concerned about should we send in battery technology for regular operations or something. We need to figure out. But yeah, shredding on the wheels is the ecosystem with which is the technology with which we'll sort out for this particular zone A.
Okay.
Take this as results. Show how we sell these products to the other industries in other countries we export or whatever it is. And then what is considered as a land of waste, let's convert it into land of raw materials for many industries to come and invest in this place.
Okay, that sounds like a great idea. So I think we are done with the time, but let's focus on the solution part, right? So now there are 5 different things, right? So one is the problem statement, the solution, some basic market research about that particular existing solution that is already present, and a basic architecture of how this thing will work, and a business model or go-to-market strategy, right? So now the problem statement is very clear that in Africa there is a
Considering Africa, example.
Considering Africa, there is a lot of waste management related issues. Now, the solution part is going to be, what are we going to focus on our solution? Let's say we are going to,
Continue.
let's say we are a company, right, who's trying to solve this problem. What would be our value proposition? What would be our solution? What are we trying to do here?
The problem is simple. There is no proper waste disposal method in many parts of the world.
No proper waste
Management methods.
management. Doesn't it become a too generic term?
Exactly, I'll tell you. Because disposal is just about collection, but we're talking about further scalability of business into processing also. Your robotics is going to come into, like Abhishek and you spoke about picking robot picking waste and processing. That is into processing. So management, my understanding of waste management is a process of collection, segregation, processing, and then putting it back into the ecosystem in whichever ways and means it could be.
Cool. So no proper waste management techniques is the problem statement that we are trying to.
In various parts of the world, it's like it does exist.
Okay.
We're trying to reach out to the places of the world which has not been done so far.
Got it.
So there's this Polish company that has a smart waste bin that uses AI to actually recognize and automatically sort renewables.
Renewables?
Recyclables.
No.
To
Like
sort
automatically
recyclables.
does it.
Like
So
what
you
he
put in
told,
the
no,
trash.
image processing is what he told.
This is using AI, yeah, right.
Image processing. Raghu, you should have been Paul and.
So, but what is our solution here? What are we trying to do?
So solution,
The
shredding on the
AI
wheels.
recycling robots.
That's future. Shredding on the wheels is where we talk about feasibility.
Okay. So
And these areas feasibility is a concept. Yes, please.
Yeah, no, please.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
No, there's actually this firm called Metso, which actually has waste shredders.
Okay.
So which actually shreds the waste into small form, like in smaller
Small
sizes.
bits. Okay.
So the only thing that I think all the technology that we are actually expecting are actually there right now in the world.
Mhm.
All we have to do
Bits and
is
parts.
compile them.
And that's when our technology of shredding on the wheels is by itself an innovation. Reaching out to every doorstep
Mhm.
on the wheels and shredding is something is what will make a consumer like this more comfortable also. Consider that these people are the ones who still have another extra task in hand to go through it every day. You tell them that just hold it in your place, we come and shred it.
So there's this manufacturer eCube Labs. So what they've done is they've made solar powered trash compactors.
Okay.
These machines compress trash as it accumulates to increase bin capacity, and they collect and transmit data on fill on collection times to help streamline the collection process. And through this, they are actually reducing the number of trips to and fro that are. So exactly kind of what we are talking about.
List down unscalable aspects of it, correct. Because again, solar panels, everything is going to cost us a lot.
True.
So with 1 million, I'll rather put into manpower, 3 shifts with 6 manpower.
What do we need the manpower for?
One to align for picking and putting it there right away. I'll still tell you, as much as we just blindly go into the solution, not every waste can go into a shredder. It will spoil my motor and other mechanics to it. So we might still
need
have
to sort it before we shred it. Is that right?
I would not call it this to be sorted. I think this is where I would need a technology aspect to it. So example, I'm looking at a zone where I need to collect it at a faster pace. I need to cover homes. Okay, can there be any technical view to it, or should it still be any mechanical simple solution where
You need not have a mechanical. Let's say just a robot goes and let's say you have a generic bot, right? Let's say this is a kind of a box which just collects all of those wastes together. Let's say a bot just goes and it just collects all of that, and maybe it shreds inside itself, and it maybe if this
I want to stay away from robots.
Okay, I have
The very aspect of I have only $1 million.
Yeah, cost.
I do not want to go only to R&D for now.
Okay,
Okay, I just have a crazy idea.
Yes.
Probably, but 1 million.
I
I'm
love
not sure.
crazy.
that's
Okay,
fine.
so the thing is that right now we know that we have drainages. Okay, so I've actually seen these cartoons and everything where the platypus jumps into drainage and it goes to a complete different place.
Okay.
The same way, will we be able to put all the waste that we have in a specific place, like
Okay.
a drainage or something?
Like some sort of a drainage
Yeah,
system. Okay.
some sort of drainage system
Mhm.
where all of that in the end of the day collects. So
Mhm.
we do not have to probably send a truck or anything.
Pipeline
All
for
of this
waste
like
management.
pipeline
Yeah.
where it gets accumulated in the end,
Okay.
where we do the segregation and then do the disposal or shredding.
The only thing
or
I'm worried
shredding.
about is the infrastructure cost.
Infrastructure and budget, it will not
With
fit
the
in.
$1 million
Yeah.
we have.
No, exactly.
I feel that
That's
will
what I
be-
wrote. It's a
But I
complete
like the
crazy
Good
idea.
idea, yeah.
The idea is
Um,
good, but yeah, implementation and budget. I think one thing what just came to my mind, right, where your issue of sort of using of my motors might get damaged or something. We can use a simple filter, right, with a specific radius of it. Like we actually filter steam, right?
Right.
So fine tune that, and we understand that my shredder can sort of shrink up materials of this much size, right? And with that filter, if we just sort of throw out materials out of it, right? For materials which are above the radius, then we will not be shredding it. We will be maybe dumping it as is, or we will be doing something else. Right?
Oh, fair, smart. So and I think this is where we bring in two of your solutions together.
Okay.
So we have shredding on wheels like Akhil's solution, which will go do the primary level. Say example at every region. So example, this is the community we're talking about, okay? And say there are going to be houses here, streets here, and then houses here, and then again streets here, houses. So example, in every community or municipality, we bring in a huge machine that you spoke about. That will be our major investment.
Mhm.
So where we
The
talk
mission,
about
the AI mission.
Let's not call it AI. Let's talk
just
about
call it
a
mission.
bigger shredder where we can do. It will have multiple compartments to it.
Okay.
Say
Okay.
wood at different scale, metal at different scale, and plastic. I think these are major raw materials you can think of. Aluminum and other things. But I think we should go customized to the particular location. Once we do study about the location, for now let's assume it's any metal, wood, and then plastic. Okay. At every level, we do shredding of some smaller sizes and articles, like Abhishek told. For the bigger compositions and the sizes, it just dumps it and piles up. We bring it here. We'll have another 2 manpower here, and then we implement this. I think this is something I can imagine at a feasible scale. Would love to have another view to it.
So what we will be doing is this segregation basically between metal, wood and plastic
For
based on size.
So how is the segregation
what
happening?
cannot be done on a shredding on wheels, the bigger parts or the ones that cannot be done by normal shredder, that will also have constraints, right?
Mhm.
For those components and elements, instead of just forcing it to do it on the wheels and burn more more fuel, it still needs fuel, right, at the end of the day, and you do not want to be creating more pollution there.
Right.
Instead, bring it here, and you know what technology we'll use here? Nuclear fusion.
Okay, why nuclear?
Because I do not want to use fuel and diesel here. I have nuclear energy to run this particular machine.
Why do we need nuclear energy? We can run it with solar energy.
Solar energy
It's electricity.
Solar energy, I'll tell you why, because it will be dependent on factors telling like day, sun, and solar energy still has got constraints. You're talking about shredding at this scale, okay?
Let's not think
it needs
about
to
the
have
solution.
a huge exposure.
Let's not think about the solution. What are we trying to do here? The only thing we are trying to do here is
let me sort of summarize what I think Yeshvanth is trying to say, and let me make sure that what my understanding is correct. Shredding on wheels can be done to a certain extent, right? We'll do that, right? But for bigger things that are not going through the filter, right, I'll have a centralized shredding mechanism which is there, which can actually, because ultimately we need to shred everything. That's our objective.
Call it a shredding mill.
Shredding mill, right? Where for these bigger objects, which is not possible inside my truck, I will do it at a centralized
But
level.
why can't that one shredding mill do all the shredding, regardless of whether it is small or big?
It can.
Why
No,
do
it
we need
actually
two
can.
different places which will need to have?
It can, but
Then
the
I
reason
think
we
fine.
have it in the truck is because so that we'll be able to collect more waste in one single place.
That's what they had. No, the utilization of space is what we're still trying to.
Yeah.
Instead of just collecting for 2 homes and the vehicle going for 4 houses, we go for 8 homes and collect it from 8 houses.
Okay,
That
the
makes
main
sense.
problem here is that the 2 billion people, we're not able to collect the waste from them.
Correct.
And since we're assuming Africa, let's assume the places which are rural. So we cannot, and we will not have our plant in every single place.
Mhm.
We might have the plant in probably like 2 or 3 locations. So in that case, collecting from different places in a complete different city and then coming here all the way, it's difficult. We might have to use 10 trucks. That's where we come in with a thing where we're going to use 1 or 2 trucks. But I have a very big question here. So let's assume a truck is coming to your house. You have your waste which is put, which then we kind of shrink it or probably shred it and make it into a small pile.
Okay.
But here when you're disposing that, you're gonna have solid waste, you're gonna have liquid waste, basically wet waste. Or even ignoring the wet waste, it's all, let's assume it's solid waste. Here in this part, we kind of segregate into metal, wood and plastic. But in
Okay.
this place, we're not segregating into different things. It's going to be just a pile of waste which is shredded and put into one single block. Okay?
Yes.
What are we going to do with the blocks?
So ideally there has to be a segregation before.
Segregation before we
Before
do the
do that,
shredding.
because in case we shred it in the first place, we cannot recycle it. In the end of the day, it's just going to be a pile of waste, but in a small pile. That's it.
Brilliant view and thought to it. And let's talk about business here. At the end of the day, what's my business here? Me giving in future is where I can monetize all these homes for waste. First, I need to get them habituated, and then their economy status should improve. For me to go say that, like, for every household I collect, you give me 10 rupees. For every dump you do in my mill, eventually, if they do not want, say, I eventually charge in localities. Okay, so let's look at it at 2 aspects. Okay, one, at places like this where 2 billion people are not having access, we'll also go into localities where it's already accessible, but with ease of access and things. Okay, we'll go tie up with governments where it's already happening also. Say growing government like India or US or China or Japan. Okay, where we tell them that we help you with waste segregation. We also make the economy and the ecosystem better. Okay, where we'll charge every household, we'll charge $1 for every dump we collect.
Okay.
If you do not want to have access, for example, there are homes which are closer by to the mill. They say that I do not want the vehicle access. They go to the mill and dump every time. That's $0.5 or something.
Okay.
So this is one revenue model for ecosystems where they are ready to pay. Like economy is really up and running. For economies which are really down like Africa and other places where we cannot monetize on this front, the actual monetization will be on the collection front. So maybe this is where all your technologies of saying like an image process sensor or a laser technology or a detection sensor will work, telling like in my shredder we need to only make it customized. Example, we walk into a locality where there are only a lot of wood waste. So our sensor should be able to shred on the wheels only wood. so that we'll have one shredding done there, the remaining comes here.
Okay, I think there's one thing that we're actually missing out here. So, when you were telling about economies which are ready to pay money, okay? India has the concept of Swachh Bharat. We do. So, India is a company which actually wants to reduce the waste. And at least, let's assume the 5 of our families. All of us, I believe that all of our families are aware of the concept that we need to segregate the waste. But are we doing it? Are we doing it in a proper way? How are we disposing it? Okay? And in case, I know in my family that they have newspapers alone, where they give it to a place where they get money. So in India, let's assume India is a country right now where we're going to start our business model probably. In India, people do not segregate it and do it segregate it and then dispose it unless they get monetized. Well, yeah.
We're not asking them to segregate it.
No, exactly. Let me just give you 1 minute. So they wouldn't do it even irrespective of a truck coming and collecting it from their place.
So unless there is a
Way to monetization factor, it's very difficult for us to get the waste in that way.
See,
Because people here in India, because there's like you told, it's a behavioral change that will happen in the due course of time. So at least the first 2-3 years, we cannot get revenue from the people, or at least as an individual level. So here I'll tell you there are 2 ways to get revenue. One is tying up with the governments. Government will actually want to use our technology so that they could reduce the waste and make the economy into a better place. And second way of getting revenue is by processing. So in case if we are a company who are going to segregate the waste at the end of the day, we could give the plastic or the metal to the companies which actually recycle. Or if we are a company who is going to recycle it, we can probably sell that where we make another revenue.
okay. So the one thing that I'm able to think of is, let's say in all of these places, right, near to
We have close to 8 minutes.
Yeah, near to the collection center, we can have small collection centers which will just sort wet waste and dry waste with image processing, with some sort of image processing. In all of these small places, we do the classification between wet waste and solid waste. And once that is done, we will have these shredder trucks which will come, take all of these things, shred it into smaller pieces, and using that we can accommodate a lot more waste with a single trip. And once we collect all of these, we go to maybe a shredder mill or a shredder yard, and then we sell this shredded solid waste for them to.
Yeah, this is where
Actually, yeah.
Because
So-
here we have solid waste.
Okay.
The solid waste is going to comprise metal, wood,
Yeah,
plastic.
it can't be shredded together. It can't be.
This is
So
what I said,
where
we need to have a
we
detection
have
sensor.
to-
That's
To
where
only take wood or plastic.
Yeah, that's
away.
what. So instead of 2, we can make it as 3. That 3 will just see. This will just, let's say, have a magnet. Okay. Once this comes into here, this will just have a magnet which will just
Fair enough.
take in all of those
Metals.
and the rest of that will go into this side, and the other metal parts will come into this side.
Does
And the wet waste.
Okay, as per my understanding, I could be completely wrong. Magnet can only catch hold of the iron and steel. Does it catch hold of gold in case gold is there? Or any other thing for the matter of fact? Let it be aluminum. I don't think a magnet does.
See,
I think we should start
I
off
could be
somewhere.
wrong from my understanding.
I think we are making a lot of assumptions.
Mhm.
So this entire inside part of the technology will be possible only we know the particular region.
Okay.
What are the waste that's getting generated? We're talking about aluminum, copper. No one is going to dump
Exactly.
aluminum, copper every day.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Is it just going to be wood?
That's what I think
Is it just gonna be-
and doing and understanding and what sort of waste is getting generated will be contextual, right? That's where that low-hanging fruit.
So in the $1 million, I think a point for fraction of it will go into market research of the particular
Yeah.
locality we choose, and then based on that, our R&D team will manufacture. It's going to be possible. We have various mechanical techniques that's going to be at cheaper cost, only with the frictional force, only with magnet, only with the
Exactly.
rotational cost, and the funnel of filter. We can do multiple processes with them.
So I
Also
think
coming on to the revenue model, as we were speaking that people won't pay for it, it is actually being done. My family pays for it. So they are being paid for picking up the waste from our doorstep.
Who's being paid? You are paying.
Yeah, we are paying.
Yeah, so basically there is NGOs, right? These
Yeah.
NGOs basically are employing these sort of, they are all refugees, like in my
Exactly, that's what I said, like there
from
is
Bangladesh and all.
There is a
But that is
model,
for,
right? Yeah.
but that is for
Few.
for cities, right? But our use case will not have
No.
that, because in our use
Rural.
we're talking about rural areas.
No.
But the pilot is not being done in a rural area. right?
No, pilot will. So I'm talking about two pilots. One, at the end of the day, we still need to have a business.
Okay, you want to have it at two places.
Yeah,
Two places
obviously.
where we can make money at the origin also. Here we'll make money at the destination only.
Right.
Here we'll make it origin and the destination.
Right.
It's a pilot.
Ah,
We
then
need
you
to tell our
generate
investors
money.
that we have done all aspects to it.
Right, you will generate money over there and push it, basically sort of invest the money that you
See,
got.
again, I think I go more with Kavi's point, wherein we need to monetize these people to make them put. See, I feel this is our selling point, right? The sorter which will sort between the metals, the plastics, and the wet waste. I feel that would be our selling point. This is what we can sell it off to the people
No.
who then do the the plastic shredding, and then they convert. We just supply this as the raw material.
I don't think
We
that will
can
work.
we can give this probably to the government, but not to individual people. And I don't think this is just a technology we are using for us to do the process after that.
We can just
Our
sell
monetizing
processed
thing
waste.
is after, but not this is not the this is a technology we use to do a process. But this is not a place where we're gonna get monetized.
We are not a
4 minutes, either you summarize or someone let's summarize it. It's 4 minutes, let's summarize.
Yeah.
Mm.
Summarize.
Okay. So I feel the major part of the solution, again, I think I'm talking more about the solution, but what we are trying to do here is to sort it into different kinds of materials, whether it is going to be metals or plastics or wet waste, and then maybe do the shredding in the process along the way, and then maybe sell it off. I don't know. Yeshwanth, you can add it.
Okay, so now talking to the business aspect of it. So if we gonna go make a pitch to our investors tomorrow, we have a pilot. We have decided at pilot at zone A. Pilot. Let's call this pilot A, and let's call this pilot B. Here we're talking about two different economies and two different stratas. Where here we're talking about where the 2 billion problem statement is happening. People do not have access to even collect the waste.
Mm.
So that's where Akhil's very idea of shedding on the wheels, I think that's going to go crazy on the media. So shedding on the wheels with now all of your inputs are telling, like Abhishek and you telling that we'll do filter and do shedding of one of the major raw material or the waste that's segregated in this entire zone. And how will we know that? Through market research. Say if it's only plastic. For plastic alone, we'll have a sensor. In the 3 compartments you're talking about, there will be wet waste, there will be other solid waste, and there will be only shredder with plastic that will be running constantly,
Mhm.
so that these 2 places will still make a room for other waste to be collected.
Okay.
And then at every alert zone, when it's being full or it's estimated to be filled, I think we can do route optimization. That's the easiest of it. And then we find a way to our mill, and then we dump it with the other waste, and then the byproducts are to be sent out in exports or imports, exports to other countries or within the same country where it's needed as a raw material. So we make a revenue out of that. The finance aspects, I think you need to figure out later. And then, so again, the truck goes back. Let it happen on a cyclic 3/8, which means 24 hours a day.
Got it.
And then another scenario, pilot B, where we talk about organized cities, tier 1 cities in a country like India, where people are already paying to collect. We just need to tie up with government and then make some more value proposition telling like how we be able to break even with the collection cost, and then with the revenue that we're making with the disposal, we can even share a percentage with the government. For us, we need scalability.
Mm.
For us, eventually, when we're looking at bigger technologies and then implementing it across the globe, our objective is as much as making money, we also want to help for the world and the ecosystem that we want to live for the future generations. And for that, we need scale of business. So I think this is our value proposition and business. Anything that we missed, I think we have close to exactly 45 seconds.
I think value proposition is covered. We have also covered the basic of
Our
what it
go-to-market
would be.
strategy is also
Yeah, and
And yeah, go-to-market strategy will be through NGOs. Good point.
Yeah.
NGOs are going to be the huge arm.
Yeah, they
arm
would
power.
be the people who would be ensuring adoption in the. I'm not worried about the pilot B, but pilot in
Pilot A, I
adoption
think.
would be very important.
I think the
for
team will
NGOs.
work equally in both spheres.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, but pilot A would be more difficult to track.
Mm.
Fair enough.
That should be their priority for adoption.
Somewhere we need to take care of our investors also. So
Yeah.
All's in picture.
Yeah.
I think everyone in the one consumer who is watching the video will relate to it.
Yeah.
Think that is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Great guys. I think it was a wonderful 1 hour with all you 5 people, all you 4 people. Us as a team, I think it was a great first episode. Thank you everyone for joining us for this podcast.
Are we doing this subscribe, like? And
Yeah, and please do like, share, and subscribe.
And please also do comment.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.